What is up, guys? Well, I'm here in Austin, Texas for the 4th year in a row covering Fantastic Fest, my favorite film festival. And last night, one of the big premieres that we got was The Strangers Chapter 2. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with this franchise, which I doubt if you're watching this that is the case, but Strangers was a franchise that started back in the 2000s with the first film that really made a big splash as being something pretty different. Got followed up by the sequel Prey at Night, which a lot of people really enjoy for more of the throwback aesthetic. And then we got this announcement that Renny Harlin, one of my personal favorite directors, especially from his older stuff, is going to be doing an entire trilogy of rebooted Stranger films. And while it seemed like a really weird pairing on its surface, I was always very curious what that was going to turn out to be, because I am one of those rare people who is not crazy about the first two Strangers films. So is Renny Harlin's take going to be something that's going to be more on my wavelength? Hopefully. But unfortunately, that first film came out 2 years ago and it was in my bottom 5 of the year. I thought it was absolutely atrocious. And even with that, I still held out a little bit of hope that Chapter 2 and Chapter 3 were really going to be the movies that they wanted to make. The first film was essentially like this very cheap knockoff remake of the original, but worse in every single way. Why they felt like they had to retread that story beat for beat, I have no idea. But it was like, okay, I'll give you a little bit of grace. I'll try to have some faith that that was the necessary evil. Let's get that chapter out of the way. And now we're going to finally start to get some of the story and some of the ideas that actually made you want to make a trilogy of Strangers films. I also had the opportunity to walk around and be a scare actor for the premiere. There was a mixer before the premiere at a bar down the street from where the Alamo Draft House and all the premieres are being that I got to walk around with for a while. I got to roam the streets with a group of the Strangers and kind of roam around with everybody waiting for the screening. So that was kind of an interesting experience. It would have been a lot better if it wasn't just miserably hot outside, but still, I got a new respect for scare actors.
So much movie are you going to see?
And then we all sit down for the premiere, and so far this is the one that had the most pizzazz to it. It had all the scare actors, all the costuming, all the marketing. Like, this is the one that they went balls out for so far in Fantastic Fest. So my hopes were still up there that maybe, just maybe, this is going to redeem this trilogy. And let me tell you, people, those hopes are crashed and burned. This movie is just as bad as the first one. Some people said it was worse, but regardless of where you fall on it, it is an absolute train wreck. Starting off with the positives for The Strangers Chapter 2, I do think that the lead actress has a lot of talent. Now, I don't exactly remember what my thoughts on her performance was in the first film, but in this second film, you do get to get a little bit more of that classic final girl element from her, as she is the survivor of the events of the first film. She's the one being chased and hunted the entire time. She gets more of a chance to fight back in this one, and while there's still a lot of very frustrating things that come along with that I'll get into, I think that she has talent. I just wish it was in a better movie, because her character you can't even really fully embrace as like this new cool final girl, because everything surrounding her sucks. There are a couple moments of pretty solid gore here. The movie opens up with an axe kill that set it up to be like a bit of an expectation of, oh, they actually ramped things up this time. This is a film that went through a number of reshoots, so I was thinking maybe they added a whole lot more gore, a lot more kills, because as we all know, us slasher fans, we're very cheap whores sometimes. A movie can be pretty bad as long as you deliver with the carnage candy. We'll at least enjoy it on some level. So there's moments of some solid kills if you're only going to a Strangers film for some carnage candy. That's it. That's all I got. And now moving on to the plethora of negatives with The Strangers Chapter 2. This movie is an absolute waste of fucking time. If the first one felt like a waste of time because we're just rewatching a shittier version of a movie that we already have, this one is a waste of time because it's literally a 90-minute chase sequence where almost nothing happens. You know how most slasher films have at least like a 10-minute sequence in the middle of the film where it's an extended chase sequence? It's like they looked at that piece of the storytelling of slashers and said, let's just make a really extended version of that, but forget to put anything in there that actually merits it being that fucking long. The movie literally starts off with the surviving character in the hospital. The strangers are still pursuing her because she's a loose end, and they're just pursuing her until the end of the film. And I can't even say it comes to any sort of a reasonable climax that makes like some kind of a hero's journey or a character arc for our main character. They just decide, But that's enough for now. To be continued. See you next time. In the chase pieces of this film where there is the most tension there, at least the most attempts at tension, where you have one of the strangers within earshot of our main character while she's hiding or while she's trying to distract them, there's no tension whatsoever because they've already told us there's a third film. So we know she's going to survive. There's no point in the film, even at its best moments, where there's some kind of tension or some kind of a palpable danger there, where you believe for even a moment that this character is going to endure anything but making it to the next sequence. That's kind of the problem when you announce a trilogy of slashers. The one thing that's supposed to have us on edge is absolutely absent from your film. While there were a couple of moments where I thought there was some good carnage candy, as I said, there is a lot of off-screen kills, there are a lot of cutaway kills, and I just don't understand why you would do that. Again, if you really have nothing to do in this film, if you have no story to tell, if you have no genuine point for us to be here, at least satisfy us with some gore. So the fact that they didn't even do that is quite literally like twisting the knife. It's like, what else you got in store for us that's going to continue to piss me off about this movie? They try to go for this angle of paranoia here, where from the first film, the entire town just feels off. I absolutely mocked it into oblivion in the first film, where it doesn't matter if they're a sheriff, if they're a fucking bartender, a waitress, a gas station attendant, a mechanic. Everybody looks weird to try to give you that red herring vibe of, oh, I don't know, could he be a stranger? Could they be a stranger? Are they all, the whole fucking town, are they strangers? And they carry that on in the second film, where every single scene that our main character shares with any other side character, it just feels like they're trying so hard to make us believe that this person might be the killer, to the point where it's so unnatural. Every single time she is talking with somebody. Even just like a normal, innocuous conversation about like, oh, the weather's actually pretty nice outside. They're like, you know, the weather, it's pretty nice outside, isn't it? And that could have been kind of an interesting element to the second film if they had just dialed it back significantly. They could have explored how she doesn't trust anybody and how it feels like she's in this inescapable situation. She doesn't know who she can turn to. Like, there's a lot of tension and drama you can mine from that. But when you crank it up to fucking 12 and every single character is doing it from the moment that they meet her, it's just ridiculous. It's laugh-inducing. And speaking of inducing laughs, there is a sequence in the middle of this film that is so asinine that I'm still somewhat in disbelief that they actually went there. Like, it was so ridiculous that every single person that I could see, as well as my buddy sitting next to me, when it was going on, we all just like turned to each other slowly. Like, what the fuck just happened? Is this for real? Let's just say Leonardo DiCaprio and The Revenant better hold on to their trophies because The Strangers Chapter 2 is coming for them. And ultimately, the biggest core problem to this trilogy is that the entire value, the entire thing that people really loved about the original Strangers is the fact that you don't need to have answers. You don't need to know who we are. You don't need to know why we're killing. You don't need to know why we targeted you. It's just because you were home. That is the entire ending point of that first film that was really powerful for a lot of people. And seemingly the only point of existence of this trilogy at this point is to have this agonizingly slow build to answering those questions of who are the strangers, why are they killing people, and who the fuck is Tamara? And they only begin to approach answering one of those questions now 2 films in, and I'm here to tell you the little hint of an answer they give you is not worth sitting through either of these films for. And if that is really the only objective that you have here is to answer those questions, you have completely lost the plot on what the appeal of The Strangers is. Essentially, you get these very offbeat flashback sequences that are intercut into the movie in a very awkward way that start to build up to answering one of the questions of how the strangers came to be. And I just don't give a fuck, okay? I don't think anybody cares walking into the film. You certainly will not care walking out of the film, understanding where they're heading with these. So we are now 2 films into this planned trilogy, and we have nothing of substance. We have nothing that I can pull out from 2 different films that's like, well, at least that one thing was cool. I'm curious what they're gonna do with the third film. Maybe that will save the day. I don't fucking care anymore. Like, obviously I'm going to cover it at this point. It's like I'm trapped into it. That's one of the burdens of the job. But I genuinely don't give a shit. The third film could be a masterpiece at this point, and I just don't fucking care. You know, it just feels like there was no point to this trilogy. It feels like there was no actual story that they had. Why they thought that they even needed 3 films to tell what so far is about 25 minutes of valuable plot, if that, and I'm being extremely generous. it just baffles me. And even as a massive Rennie Harlan fan, I don't see him anywhere in these films. Like, this feels like one of the most textbook examples of director for hire that I've ever seen. He just took a paycheck to do these 3 movies. They even did a bunch of reshoots for the second film, and I want to know what the hell was in that original cut that wasn't satisfying enough. Like, what was in that first cut that's like, yeah, this isn't quite up to par of what we want for The Strangers Chapter 2, if this is the better version. So overall, guys, I do not recommend this movie at all. If you had hope like I did that maybe things would start to turn around by the second film, there's no hope left, and it feels like an absolute waste of time to even press play on this movie. Absolutely nothing of substance happens. Anything that you get that even starts to lean towards an answer is not a satisfying answer and not a question that any of us were fucking asking in the first place. So save your money unless you were just absolutely masochistic. In that case, have fun and see you in the third film. Well, that's it for this one, guys. If you enjoyed that, please click over here for all of my 2025 new release reviews. I'm also going to put my review of The Strangers Chapter 1. I guarantee you the review's more entertaining than the movie. Like, share, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss everything in the future. And as always, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean you have to be.